Hello and welcome to or back to my channel. I am Kit, your friendly feminist cat lady spinster, and today we are going to dive into chapter 7 of Michelle Easton's How to Raise a Conservative Daughter. I did peek at this chapter, which started my annoyance this morning, and it's titled Manage Money Early and Often, which I would think is a universal thing. We all need money to survive. We need money to buy things we want as well as need. And then the first sentence is, if you think the left isn't interested in shaping the way your daughter thinks about money and economic freedom, think again. I feel like economic freedom is the main freedom these sorts of people are about. Socialism's rising popularity among America's youth didn't happen by accident. Through a highly funded and well-coordinated approach, leftists have unleashed a seductive, socialist economic agenda designed to win over an even greater portion of America's young people. And you might be surprised at the seeming innocuous places their radical economic messages now show up in your daughter's life. Right. When most parents hear the name Teen Vogue, they imagine a magazine filled with beauty tips, makeup secrets, fashion trends, fitness routines, and perhaps some advice on boys and dating. In reality, Teen Vogue has become a radical leftist publication with a Marxist economic agenda. In November 2020, Teen Vogue columnist Candace Mallet ran an article that declared, at its core, America's values are white supremacy and capitalism. Is she wrong, though? Also, I'd like to note that Michelle does link a source for this article, but the source she links to is Dan Crenshaw's Twitter account when he's talking about this article. Yeah. Now, why would you do that, Michelle? Do you not want people to go to the article, read it themselves, and make up their minds about how they feel about it? Or would you like them to read the article, but after finding out what a fellow Republican thinks about it? Mallet explains to teen readers that from geographic segregation to immigration bans and racist policing, the United States has privileged the lives and security of some residents at the expense of others. Furthermore, teen girls are instructed that government redistribution of wealth is a solution to economic inequality. I don't want to see a kinder capitalism that still forces people to work while they're sick and take on multiple jobs to get by, declared Mallet. I want to live in a society that ensures people's basic needs, like housing, food, healthcare, and a clean environment, by creating programs like universal healthcare and deprivatization of housing. So I'm just saying, Michelle, that when you say things like this, or rather quote things like this, it sounds like you disagree. By the way, I highly recommend coffee and a stress ball for this one. So Michelle, do you think people should have to go to work when they're sick? Because when things like COVID happen, I think that shows what a bad idea that is. And do you really think it's a good idea to have your health insurance tied to your employment? Because again, that was already a bad idea, but COVID really showed us what a bad idea that is. If you're wondering what she means by deprivatization of housing, the Teen Vogue columnist points to another article where she calls for the end of private property rights and slams the cruelty of payment-based housing. That article even caught the attention of Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw, who tweeted, Teen Vogue published op-ed that says we should abolish private property rights, along with those pesky police. Just wondering if anyone sees any issues with their next generation reading Marxist propaganda in popular teen magazines? I sure do, and I suspect you do as well. Parents owe it to their daughters to teach them about economic freedom, why capitalism produces the best outcomes for the most people, and important financial principles about saving and investing money. Boys typically get the business and money talks while girls get passed over. I urge you to break that tradition. Guiding your daughter will not only help her later in life, it will shape her macroeconomic views. Higher taxes? No thanks. I work too hard and make too many sacrifices for the government to waste my money. Perhaps your job shouldn't demand you make sacrifices? Also, what sacrifices are you making? Are you making commuting time sacrifices? Are you sacrificing family, friends, time for yourself, time to pursue other endeavors? Just, what sacrifices are you talking about? Increase the debt limit? Absolutely not. We need to pay for what we spend. Fiscal conservatism is the product of money management lessons learned early in childhood. So let's begin with the basics a young girl should learn to get off to a strong conservative start. I will give Michelle credit for saying that, don't only talk to boys about business and money talks. Girls should have those talks too. Capitalism versus socialism. In 2019, Gallup conducted a major study of young people's attitudes toward capitalism and socialism. The headline from Gallup, Socialism as popular as capitalism among young adults in U.S. The survey found that young adults' positive views of capitalism had fallen from 66% and 20% in 2020 down to just 50%, the same as those who viewed socialism positively. This isn't just a failure of our education system. Is it a failure of the education system? I mean, should we automatically be teaching that something is bad just because? It's a call for parents to actively teach the virtues and values of free market capitalism and the tyranny of government-controlled economies. As renowned conservative economist Thomas Sowell points out, socialism is a wonderful idea. It is only as a reality that it has been disastrous. I just really want to know what they're calling socialism, because like saying we need public health care and more affordable housing isn't really socialism. That is not government control of work. The simple definition of capitalism is an economic system of voluntary exchange between individuals that produces a mutual benefit. Socialism is marked by government control over the means of production and who benefits. Put simply, capitalism is about freedom. Socialism is about government-enforced coercion. Under capitalism, free people are allowed to pursue their own self-interest, take entrepreneurial risk, and win big if they succeed. They're also allowed to become homeless and live on the streets and die from lack of access to healthcare. Woo. Under socialism, the government determines winners and losers and seizes and redistributes the wealth workers create. Teaching your daughter that free market capitalism equals freedom and socialism equals government control is the seed that will bloom 1,000 intellectual forests later on. And that is why they are so cautious about allowing daughters to go to college, because there they will meet people with other ideas who won't tell them, well, for one, there are, in my opinion, very few people that wholeheartedly embrace socialism in the United States. I could be wrong. I'm not an intellectual. I'm not an expert. I'm just a person that lives in the United States and works. Coincidentally, I also pay taxes. Weird. And I do think that we should do more to help people in this country, because when you have a country where so many people struggle to afford a $400 emergency, when you have a country where people declare bankruptcy because of medical debt, when people live in their vehicles and shower at work or whatever because they can't afford rent where they work, we have a problem. And when you have CEO pay that's, what is it now, 300% above worker pay, we have a problem. Of course, it doesn't surprise me that Michelle disagrees, because she's always quoting Ronald Reagan, and he is the one that began the massive redistribution of wealth from the middle class they so often fearmonger about to the 1% who really don't need any more money. This is coming from a Christian woman, and I really don't think that Jesus was a capitalist. Wasn't there something about him being upset about like money chargers or changers or whatever in the temple? Didn't he upset tables and yell at people or something? I really don't understand this linking of Jesus with capitalism. They're economic systems, they're not religions. What Smith meant is that people pursuing their own self-interest produce greater outcomes for everyone, an invisible hand that works to create the most benefit for all. The seller creates jobs and wealth. The buyer receives a product or service. And when more sellers pursue their self-interest and go into business as well, competition drives down the price and products improve. Win, win, win. Except, in order for capitalism to work, people need to just keep buying more and more things. Consumerism, the thing that is creating a lot of waste nowadays because we throw away things and just buy more. I mean, I guess if you're a Christian, who cares about this world? Because the next world's going to be better, right? When you get to die and go to heaven and be with Jesus and all that. But I just kind of feel like this is not being a steward of the earth. I mean, if I was God, I would be very disappointed in what Christians are preaching these days, because creating a world so people can live in it and then watching them just destroy it because they can, to make money. I don't know. I would be very disappointed. No matter how much they worshipped me on Sundays, and no matter how many chick tracts they handed out, I would just be so disappointed. Of course, leftists have distorted and abused Smith's concept. They claim capitalism is a system built on greed. Well, yeah. And sustained by racism that creates the oppression of workers and wealth inequality. And what part of that is wrong? I mean, the only reason that I can go buy, 100 tchotchkes from Walmart is because they're made in a country that pays workers very poorly and doesn't treat them any better than they pay them. That is why. If we didn't rely on outsourcing of that sort of labor, we wouldn't be able to afford half the crap that we buy. I mean, I remember watching that Classically Abby video where she was upset that AOC was selling a Tax the Rich sweatshirt and it was like $68, and she's like, well, I can buy $20 Walmart sweatshirts. And it's like, yeah, where are those sweatshirts made? If you buy sustainable materials sourced from the US and you pay workers fairly to create it, it's not going to be $20. I don't understand why that concept is so hard to grasp. This also goes for people that are like, I want to buy Made in America, but do you really want to pay the Made in America price? Therefore, they claim the government must step in, seize control, and divide up and redistribute money to ensure equality of outcomes. These are, of course, lies, and they further demonstrate liberals' lack of economic understanding. I'm sorry, but liberals are not socialists. Adam Smith wrote an entire book called The Theory of Moral Sentiments that addressed the moral and legal responsibilities of maintaining free markets. I hope she goes into what those are. Still, conservatives do not believe in equality of outcomes. We believe in equality of opportunity. You say that, but I don't think you really believe that. How high an individual manages to rise is up to her own efforts, not the decision of government. That's the only way to have society that distributes wealth fairly. I would love to have Michelle explain why she thinks it's fair that 1% of people own the majority of the wealth in this country. So how can parents teach these foundational economic principles to their daughters, particularly when they are young? One great way is to start a conversation about how students earn grades in school. It might go something like this. Let me ask you something. How would you feel if your math teacher told the class that she was going to take the A you earned on your last test and give away part of it to a student who got an F? That way, by averaging your A and his F, you both would get a C. Would you be okay with that? She will say absolutely not. When you ask why, she will likely say, because that's not fair. I studied hard and earned my A. The other student did not, which is why he failed the test. There's actually a lot more that can go into why someone failed a test besides not studying, but okay. And when you ask her the critical follow-up question, now what would happen on future tests if everyone knew that no matter how hard they study, their grades would be taken from them, averaged together, and everybody receives a C? And that's the light bulb moment. Well, I wouldn't try anymore. No one would. What's the point of working hard if the teacher's just going to steal your grade and give it to someone who didn't try hard? Well, for one, grades are different from, survival. From there, you pivot into a conversation of how that same concept is the difference between capitalism, a system that rewards hard work and sacrifice, versus socialism, one that destroys creativity, seizes property, and redistributes wealth. Starting with simple conversations like this as early as elementary school can produce enormous benefits for shaping the way your daughter sees the world when it comes to economics, until she actually meets poor people who are trying to better the situation. The key is starting simple when she's young and slowly building from there with practical parenting lessons based on conservative principles. This really is more like how to brainwash your daughter into being a conservative. Because, when you're young and you live in a bubble, it's easy to believe, hard work equals reward, if you sacrifice and whatever, you will be rewarded. But then you get out into the real world and you see people who do that and still fail, and then you realize that life is actually not black and white. Attitudes and communication. Money is not the root of all evil. The love of or lust for money is. That little turn of phrase makes a world of difference, and parents have to be aware of the messages they send when talking about finances in front of their daughter. Saying someone is filthy rich, for example, implies that there is something inherently dirty or bad about someone who acquires wealth. That view certainly doesn't apply to a person who has earned his or her wealth through hard work, honesty, and innovation. So it's important to examine the language we use when discussing money and wealth with our children. Even seemingly innocent sentiments often carry a secondary message. Parents often express negative money messages in front of their children without realizing it. They may be blowing off steam, and other adults would recognize it as such. But young children are impressionable, and words have consequences for better or worse. Be careful not to unwittingly corrupt your daughter's ideas about money. This is a lot of defense about money from someone who claims to be a Christian. Instead of venting, consciously encourage fiscal optimism. Money is a tool, and managing it wisely provides greater opportunities to help others. Conservatives are also big believers in personal responsibility, so look at the glass as being half full and take steps to improve rather than complain. Instead of beating the "we can't afford it" drum, change your perspective and take initiative. It will help you and your daughter. How much do your concert tickets cost? Okay, let's make it a goal. We can afford it, just not right now. We have to work and save for the next 2 months. Michelle is so out of touch. Wow. I mean, I know she's in her 70s, but damn. It's also wise for girls to steer clear of people who demonize the rich. The politics of envy and class warfare have gone viral in today's woke popular culture. When successful people are derided as the evil 1% who don't pay their fair share of taxes, grab your wallet. Top earners pay a very high percentage of all income tax in our progressive tax system, and they also create jobs and give to churches and charities. That's something to celebrate in front of your daughter. It's just really weird to me to have a self-professed Christian, like going so hard to defend money. Remember, Michelle, you can't take it with you. And then she talks about deciding how much you want to share with your daughter about family finances. Girls who grow up in family business environments are often exposed to entrepreneurship and advanced financial conversations at a young age. They tend to develop a certain confidence that comes with managing money, but they shouldn't know too much with respect to numbers. My view is that parents should discuss family issues in the context of paying for things. The cost of new clothes, for example, involves financial trade-offs. That's helpful for a young girl to understand. The same goes for big-ticket family items like vacations or a new car. You can't have everything just because you want it. Talking about cost means explaining choices. And if parents aren't going to talk about it at home, your daughter will form her ideas about money from somewhere. So I'm going to hazard a guess that Michelle believes if someone is poor and struggling, it's because they just didn't work hard enough. If you work 2 jobs and are still poor and struggling, you just didn't try hard enough. People don't get advantages early in life from where they're born or who they're born to or what schools they go to. Everything is equal in America. Everybody has the same opportunity to succeed. Michelle is an idiot. From piggy banks to checking accounts. Every young child needs a piggy bank. They are an excellent tool for teaching kids about managing money. From pennies to birthday cash, it's fun to watch a girl's eyes light up at the prospect of making another deposit. Take your daughter to the store when she's little and let her pick a piggy bank that she likes. Tell her that saving money is big girl stuff and watch as she takes pride in her new responsibility. Take money out, counting it, and putting it into $1 piles will have several immediate benefits. First, your daughter will learn basic math skills. Then comes a sense of proportion. She can buy a Barbie, but not the entire dollhouse. Finally, she'll notice a large empty space in the jar where her money used to be. That's the cost of her toy. She won't just hear the cost, she will see it. She can have a full jar or a toy, but she can't have both. Let her decide. Okay, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with people learning how to manage money from a young age. I do have a problem, however, with assuming that this lesson can, for one, apply to everyone, and two, that everyone can do it. This might blow Michelle's mind, but there are people who can't afford to buy their kid a piggy bank, who can't afford to give their kid change to put in said piggy bank. Once the concept of saving is established, it's time to visit a local bank and open a savings account. Have your daughter empty her piggy bank and help pack coin rolls full of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. Establish a joint account and teach her how to record deposits, withdrawals, and calculate the balance. As your daughter gets older, a checking account may be in order. I like the idea of starting a girl's checking account at a relatively young age, provided that she has shown financial maturity in earlier exercises. Teach her to keep a checkbook and show her how a deposit or withdrawal will mathematically affect her account balance. A huge part of managing money boils down to math, which even 12-year-old girls can put into practice. The wonders of investing. Albert Einstein once called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays it, he said. Benjamin Franklin said it this way: money makes money, and the money that money makes money. Every girl should learn how to make her money work for her, and a modest savings account can even underwrite her first investments. Don't make the mistake of letting early opportunities pass by. These days, a 10-year-old can understand the stock market. Before the internet, people would have to buy a Wall Street Journal and peruse back-page columns of numbers of stock abbreviations to gauge prices and trends. If you wanted to know the price-to-earnings ratio for General Electric, a high market acumen and calculator were needed. Now, websites do all that in real time. So pop open a user-friendly stock price website such as Google Finance and show your daughter how stocks work. This is actually how to raise a middle to upper class conservative daughter. So yeah, if you can afford it, absolutely teach your daughter about the stock market, but to pretend that everyone in this country has the same opportunities and can just invest in the stock market, this is so dumb. Delayed gratification, opportunity costs, and giving. She talks about the scene where Veruca Salt demands a golden goose and calls it the perfect depiction of a spoiled brat with no concept of delayed gratification. So much of teaching conservative money principles to a daughter is about learning the concept of delayed gratification. Yeah, because liberals, leftists, wokeists, whoever, we're just all about, having what you want when you want it. It's not like we're concerned about serious things like healthcare and housing. Finally, parents need to show that earning money is only valuable insofar as it serves a higher purpose. We don't work just to get richer and richer for the sake of want and materialism. Rather, we earn money in order to effect change, provide for our family, and help other people. Numerous studies have shown that conservatives give more to charity than liberals. Conservatives believe it's the job of individuals to help others, not government. Liberals generally want the government to impose social programs and demand higher taxes to pay for them. Yes. Conservatives often resist and are portrayed as cruel and selfish, but their outsized giving doesn't square with popular stereotypes. In truth, conservatives want the freedom to give their money where they believe it will be best spent. Religious charities, natural disaster funds, and all manner of private nonprofit organizations are showered with good faith donations every year. The generosity of both working class and wealthy conservatives knows no bounds. Well, for one, we don't know where conservatives are donating that money, and for two, so the reason I think that, yes, charity is great. You should give to charity if you can afford it. However, I would rather taxes pay for it because then it can be more evenly spread out. And also, the government reaches everyone. Individual choice always trumps government coercion, except when it comes to abortion. And parental role modeling is critical for teaching girls to give. Show your daughter that it's an important part of life. Maybe it's helping children, supporting missionaries, or perhaps families of fallen soldiers. There's no limit to the good your daughter can do, even if her contributions are small. It is good to give to charity. It is bad to pretend that will not let anyone fall through the cracks. There'll be plenty of people that I feel like we need a time machine so people like Michelle can go back to, say, the 1930s and see how bad it was before we had government programs. Jobs are the key. Editing Kit jumping in to add that this is not the first time that Michelle has mentioned a job as being key to making your daughter a conservative, and I just think a few years in our current workforce would probably have the opposite effect. Most conservative women whom I have met share a common experience. They had jobs when they were young. It's not a coincidence. I have asked many interns what they would do to raise a conservative girl. The answers varied, but the top response was always a job. Why? Because a job develops work ethic, personal responsibility, problem solving, accountability, and financial knowledge at an early age. By having a job, girls learn to work for money. An employer isn't a parent. I find it interesting how she thinks socialism will destroy creativity, but having to work hours at a soul-crushing job, no, your creativity will just, it'll figure it out. Girls also realize how much they have to work to be able to buy the things they want. And if they want more, they have to work harder and smarter and likely more hours. Then, when taxes eat a chunk of their wages, reality hits home, and they wonder what in the world the government is doing with their hard-earned cash. Well, most of what the government is doing is paying for our military. When your daughter brings home her paycheck, talk to her about the Social Security tax. Ask her what she thinks about paying her hard-earned money into a program that's teetering on bankruptcy and unlikely to meet its future obligations, money she won't see for 50 years or more. She is coming at us from such an amazingly privileged standpoint, and so am I. My family always had family to help them out, even when we were super poor. So it's not as though I had to experience living in a car or anything like that firsthand. But somewhere along the way, I still developed empathy and the understanding that just because my family had people to help them out doesn't mean everybody does. Studies should always come first, and higher college admission standards may involve extra preparation. Public service requirements can also take up time that may have been traditionally available for part-time employment. But generally, girls should still work. They can limit their hours, but the benefits go way beyond the drawbacks. This has always been accepted wisdom until relatively recently. Teenage employment has plummeted since the millennial generation. In 1989, nearly 60% of 16 to 19-year-olds had summer jobs. 44% worked year-round. Today, about a third of teenagers have summer jobs, and fewer than 30% work the rest of the year. Kids are missing out on so many of the lessons that helped make America an economic powerhouse. Okay, Michelle, you just keep advocating for employers to be able to pay the least and not have to give benefits, because teen employees don't need benefits. That's what parents are for. They don't need livable wages because they're only working part-time. And it's not just about earning and saving money, as important as that is. It's writing a resume, preparing for a job interview, talking to adults, learning new skills, being accountable, and developing future references. That's what I look for when young ladies apply to be summer fellows. A job also forces girls to go outside their social bubbles and to work with different types of people. Scooping ice cream and making pizzas forces a girl to interact with people of different demographic backgrounds. Keeping hours, working with others, going to work when others are idle, these are crucial to her character development. I wonder if Michelle thinks most leftists are unemployed. Sadly, many of today's teens don't know how to count change for a cash purchase. Well, most people don't pay cash for a purchase these days, and no, the computer usually tells you how much change to give back. And I'm pretty sure employers prefer it that way because they probably trust a computer over a person to calculate change. Maybe she will think of better ways to contribute and move up the company ladder. Maybe she'll recoil at manual labor and rededicate herself to her studies so that stocking supermarket shelves won't be her future career, just as my son did. That said, parents do need to exercise discretion about where their daughter works. Anything that risks her safety should be out of the question. Restaurants that serve alcohol and release their waitstaff late at night can be problematic. And that is the luxury of deciding where you work. Likewise, jobs that require girls to wear skimpy uniforms are in dangerous parts of town are asking for trouble. There are plenty of employment opportunities without these risks. Student loan debt. Often, preparations for college start as early as middle school, with tiger moms and motivated parents steering their children toward academic paths and extracurricular activities that will sparkle on admissions of applications. But paying for school is often a secondary concern that ends up leaving many young adults and families buried beneath mountains of debt. It doesn't have to be that way. There are different approaches. One involves sitting your daughter down early in high school and asking her how she's going to pay for college. Put the onus on her and let her mental wheels start turning. You mean you aren't going to take care of it, Mom? Explain that the goal is to reduce debt and keep student loans off the table or held to a minimum. Panic may or may not ensue, but our thought process will shift from, I'll take out huge loans like everyone else if Mom and Dad don't pay, to, I'd better figure out how this is going to work. After the initial shock, initiate conversations about earning, saving, scholarships, and trade-offs. Today, students are racking up debt and avoiding hard choices because they tell themselves that college should be free and that the government will eventually pick up the tab. That's not how it works. They run up big tabs in the hopes that politicians will cancel their student loan debt. Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren popularized student loan bailouts as part of their recent efforts to win votes, and many liberals think it's only a matter of time before the Democrats take up their cause. For the record, there are currently $1.6 trillion in student debt. Wiping the slate clean rewards debtors while punishing those who made financial sacrifices and honor their loan commitments. Those who were unable to attend college would get the short end of the stick, as the policy would transfer wealth from their paychecks to college graduates. Except it wouldn't give them more money, it would just lessen money they had to pay back. And also, if they don't have that on their paychecks, they can also afford to spend more money. Debt is tricky for conservatives. We want to avoid it, but sometimes it's necessary. I was determined to avoid student loans in college. It took hard work and tough choices. I had to take a year off between my junior and senior undergraduate years. Living at home, I worked at a bank to save money and took classes at night at a nearby college for half my senior year. It wasn't fun, but that's what I needed to do. Nobody was going to bail me out, and I was better for it. Years later, I went to 4 years of law school at night and paid my way through. I took a small loan my fourth year, which was my husband's first year of night law school. It's possible to still do that today if your daughter is willing to sacrifice. I wonder if Michelle knows how much college costs today because, well, judging from her age, she went to school in the mid to late 60s, and judging from her kids' ages, they went to school in the 90s. Beating the credit card game. Credit cards are one of the earliest financial temptations your daughter will face. Many young women ignore credit cards in the beginning. They have no experience and are unsure about them. Then they start thinking, I can't afford what I want, but I could just charge it and pay later. That's what adults do, right? Sadly, that's often true. But it's a dangerous thought for young people to indulge. Without parental oversight, girls can get into a mess. In a worst-case scenario, they max out one card, then take out another. When girls make these sorts of choices, they run the risk of not only ruining their own financial future, but of ruining that of their family as well. Teach your daughter about the credit card debt spiral, where making minimum payments will keep her indebted even if she feels like she's staying on top of things. Paying the full balance off every month is key. Okay, yeah, I agree that's an important lesson. No one ever talked to me about credit cards, so I really had no idea how they worked or how to use them to my advantage. One way for parents to deal with credit cards is to forbid them. You can't really forbid your adult daughter from having a credit card, but okay. There can be no disaster if there's no card to begin with. None of my children were allowed to have credit cards, except for use in emergencies. I'm not knocking that approach, but your daughter is going to leave your house one day and make her own decisions. Moreover, building a strong credit rating may be vital to her future financial well-being. So, you could help her learn about responsible credit card practices under your supervision rather than leaving her to go at it alone. Start by teaching her that credit cards are a neutral financial tool. They aren't inherently good or bad, but can be either depending on how they're used. Late high school or early college is a good time to have them read Dave Ramsey, Suze Orman, or Sam Edelman, authors who give sound financial advice from differing points of view. Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship teaches girls that they can be more than just employees. They can start a business or innovate their way to new heights. It takes identifying an opportunity, taking a risk, and working for profit. It can be as simple as opening a lemonade stand in your neighborhood or selling items on eBay. Parents can show their daughters successful small businesses and explain how the different parts, like product development, marketing, and customer service, make the whole thing work. A job is just one aspect of a business. Sharing stories of how corporate giants started from an idea and lots of hard work can feed your daughter's imagination. Not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Your daughter doesn't have to be. The point is that entrepreneurship helps girls see the big picture. They learn that the harder they work and the more creative they become at finding solutions to problems, the luckier they will be. It's difficult to become a socialist when parents help their daughters develop an affinity for creating jobs and opportunity through hard work early on. I seriously don't... I can't decide if Michelle just doesn't know what people are asking for, or if she does know and is trying to scare the people reading her book into thinking it's worse than it actually is. Putting it all together. Teaching girls the principles of economic freedom, capitalism, and responsible money management has tremendous benefits for the rest of their lives. It engenders fiscal responsibility, empowers them to stand on their own 2 feet, and weaves delayed gratification into their worldview. Give your daughter the gift of confidence that comes through managing money early and often. Alright, so that was chapter 7. It is just so weird to me that capitalism is the hill this Christian apparently wants to die on. I think I had a few more thoughts on this that I emailed to myself after I did a quick run through of this chapter. So between this chapter and the America is Exceptional and Worth Defending chapter, does she really want a country that can never be criticized? What is the point of the First Amendment then? And does that not seem a little authoritarian to her? Why is she so scared of socialism, but not of policing people's thoughts about the United States? So that is it for chapter 7. I'm going to take a quick break and then film chapter 8, and then there'll be only 2 more chapters left, plus the final thoughts portion. So then 3 more videos about this, and then we can finally move on from this really bizarre book. I call it bizarre because it just seems like this person is coming at it from a different world, which I guess they are, because I don't know this world she speaks of where you work hard and you just magically get more money. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Please let me know your thoughts on it below. And of course, if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. You can follow my socials, which are listed below. I'm Feminist Cat Lady Spinster on Instagram and Spinster Kid on Twitter. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!